Welcome your hosts Caddy Frank and Erin Fitzgerald as they lead discussions about substance use disorder and the journey to recovery. You're listening to Redefining Recovery, a recovery revolution.
Well, good morning, Erin. How are you?
Good morning, Caddy. I'm super. How are you?
I'm so fantastic. It's so exciting to be here for our first show. I just want to let our audience know that we are here representing Minnesota Recovery Connection, the first ever, thanks to Erin. She's got this all down. First recovery community organization. Our mission is to strengthen the recovery community through peer-to-peer support, public education, and advocacy. Minnesota Recovery Connection is a nonprofit organization run and governed by us, Erin and Caddy, and everybody else, the recovery community. I also want to thank the Family Butler Foundation for sponsoring and providing support for this program.
Yeah, without them, we wouldn't be here having these amazing conversations.
I know.
I'm so excited to get started.
It's a dream that I think the Minnesota Recovery Connection has had for a long time. We've needed to have a way to talk to people about recovery. Mm-hmm. So here we are.
And more than a dream for Minnesota Recovery Connection, Caddy, I know that this has been a dream of yours, and so I want to turn the table on you and start with a question that you always ask in your Recovery Coach Academy, and that is, what's right with you? And I think as we go forward, we'll always start the show with this question. It's an important question. It can really change the narrative of a person's day and just how they're looking at things in life rather than looking at something negative. Looking at something positive. But in this case, I just want to know what's right with you, Caddy.
Well, I woke up this morning, and there was a time in life when waking up in the morning, it looked really ugly. It looked really unfortunate. But, when I think about what's right with me today, I'm sitting here across from someone I value. I'm sitting in a space where our voices are valued. What's right with me is that I am fulfilling a dream, and I have good people in my life. I have a good work relationship. I have a couple of cats. I have a good partner. And as we continue to go forward, I think as we talk about what's right with us, I think this will be such a great way, as you said earlier, to promote what's going well. Forget about what doesn't work, because what doesn't work is there. It's always going to be there. But what's right is someplace we have to focus. So what's right with you today, Erin?
I feel like the obvious. I am completely thrilled to be here. Honestly, just looking at your face and the joy that I'm receiving from you is enough to just, this is really great. I'm thrilled to be here today. And like you said, we're women in recovery, and having these opportunities, having the experience that we have and being able to share that and bring important information to our communities. This is a dream of yours, and it became a dream of mine because of you.
Yippee, I got you on my ship. I got you on my boat. I got you on my train.
Can't get me off now.
Not going to happen, my friend. Not going to happen.
Yeah. So we've got so much to talk about, right? Mm-hmm. And since we're brand new, how about we start with telling the listeners about us and why we qualify to be here having these conversations. Can we start with you this week?
Sure. So with me, why I'm sitting here for fulfilling a dream that I wanted to have come true. I wanted to talk about recovery to a larger audience. I think about when I first came into the recovery community, I was like listening to local radio stations, and they would talk about stuff, and I'm like, wow, where's the recovery conversation? There used to be a program long ago on it from 11 to 12 at night talking about AA conversations, and I'm like, but where's the other conversations? Where is that? Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, let's talk about recovery. And now at Minnesota Recovery Connection, thanks to some good support, we have a show. So we can talk about this. And you talked about women, but there's men and there's children and there's all different cultures. I was having a really great conversation with someone yesterday, and we were talking about particularly community of the Latino community and how much they struggle with just admitting that there's a problem in the recovery community, as well as just sort of busting out of fear, shame, all those things. And that's what we struggle with all the time.
Yeah.
You and I were in the car last week, and I admitted that I was overwhelmed by taking in all kinds of information. And you kind of looked at me like, oh, my God, she's human too. I'm like, heck yeah, superhuman. Because we have these perceived flaws. We have these perceived faults. We have these perceived shame. And I think that's what people in recovery live with sometimes. But that, to the point of asking, when you said, what's right with you today? What's right with me is that I woke up without a hangover. I woke up without, feeling like, where the hell is my car? Because that used to happen a whole lot of time. Well, heck, a lot of times. So, it's just really interesting being able to have these conversations and having literally an open mic to talk about it, because I think we live in that space where we're afraid. What do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, sorry, I had a follow-up question for you, and now I'm off key, so I'm...
No problem. We'll just keep on rolling along here. So, you know that this is a dream that's coming true for me.
It is. And so my question for you, you said when you first found recovery, or when you first got sober, there were these things going on. And I'm just curious, when did you find recovery?
So, well, that's a layered question. I found recovery specifically, I would say, in the year, where are we, 2024, 2020-ish.
Okay.
No, 2001. 2001, there we go.
All right.
I'm just not thinking clearly, because I've got 22 years in recovery. And when you say that, people go, oh, that's such a long time. And I'm like, it is, but... every day is a day in recovery. And what's really interesting is when I think about when I found recovery, I found it because I got myself into some legal trouble. And when you asked me that, Erin, it just all of a sudden I had, like you had a moment where you're like, wait a minute, what are the thoughts in my head? I knew something was off because I was scared so much of the time when I would wake up in the morning and I wouldn't remember what was going on. And I think that happens for a lot of people. It's like, what did I do last night? What happened? And if I were to be able to reflect on myself now, like in those times, that would have been a moment where I'm like, oh, damn, what's going on? Where's my life? What am I doing? And so truly my recovery came 2001, but really, the sadness that was in my soul was birthed long, long before that, when substance use really became an issue. And that's part of my story, which, we'll talk about. Tell me about you. When did recovery become kind of something that you sort of saw, felt?
Layered like yours. So I've been in recovery for about 5 years. But really what it looked like, thanks to you, what it looked like was I was sober for a couple of years. And then I met Miss Caddy Frank. And then all of a sudden I recognized what recovery was and what that meant. And so about 3 years ago, I would say is really when I found recovery, because there's really a difference in my life anyways, as far as just taking the substance out, and whether I was using some kind of program and talking to humans. It didn't necessarily fulfill the recovery that I needed, because I wasn't just recovering from substance. I can't wait to talk about this. I was recovering from life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So much of our life is in that. And I think when we're going to take a break real soon, and I think when we come back, you brought up something that I think we want to step into, which is, what is that difference between sobriety and recovery? And you had asked me that, and we kind of have that written down, and it's like, oh, there's so much there, because that's where the meat of this community sort of lives, is we say one thing, but then we feel another thing. It's like in our bones, potentially, when we find that recovery.
Yeah.
So
I just can't wait to share it with all the other humans so they know what we know.
I know, great. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and we will be back. And thank you for listening to Redefining Recovery, a recovery revolution. Thank you.
We've all seen the man at the liquor store begging for your change. The hair on his face is dirty, dreadlocked in for the man's time. And then you really might know what it's like. And then you really might know what it's like. And then you really
Welcome
might
back
know
to
what it's
Redefining
like.
Recovery, a recovery revolution. I'm your host, Erin, with Caddy, Frank, and before we went to break, we were just kind of bantering, but really starting to talk about Caddy's story, what it was like before, and what kind of made the shift, and how you got to where you are today. And so, do you want to just start back and start wherever you want, I guess, with your story? What do you want us to know first?
Yeah.
The good, the bad, or the ugly?
And there's so much of all of the above.
There is.
Well, thanks, Erin. As I said before, a dream has come true being here, sitting here, wanting to talk about recovery. And part of that is based on the fact that everybody has a story in coming around in recovery. And I'll give you some snippets of mine and what brought me to this place. So it could start when I was a child, or it can start when I actually took the class at Minnesota Recovery Connection, because that's really when as we were talking about earlier, my recovery journey really began. So let's bring the clock and the calendar back to about 2016-ish, and I was sitting in my therapist's office, feeling a little lost in life. I had been in recovery at that point a few years. I can't do the math, but that's okay.
15-ish?
Sure, that sounds good. And I was like, therapist, wonderful human, Debbie, what am I going to do with my life? I want to get back to the recovery community. I had been working, I'd been doing lots of jobs, I had been doing all the things that you're supposed to, but there was still an empty part. I had been attending AA, because that's what saved my life. So now what was next? And so I went on to the Google, as I call it. I tell everybody when I'm in my classes, let's go on the Google and find what we need to find. And I found peer recovery services. What's that? But what it sounded like was somebody like me talking to somebody like me who had a similar experience. And it's like, I can do that because I have a lived experience.
Yeah, and you do that.
Yeah.
In your daily life.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
And we don't even know it. Sometimes we talk in code, and sometimes we talk out. I know one of the things I used to say when I was attending my AA meetings is that when I went into the rooms, I could take off my cloak. I could be real. And I think so many times we have to put that cloak back on when we are walking through the streets. In our, at the time, alcoholic brain thinking, we're not necessarily in recovery. We're alcoholics and we're sober. And so that was the twist in my head. I'm like, what am I thinking about?
It sounds like anonymity was playing a role in your life right then, and you weren't really like coming out of your shell in your recovery.
No, that's so true. There were certain people that I could trust, but that trust was just that. I had to trust them versus trust myself. And that's a huge flip. That's a huge flip that I had to make. And wow, I just had that aha moment, those light bulb things.
Yeah.
Yeah, right there, right then.
I love it. Happens all the time.
I know, it's so exciting. So I went on the Minnesota Recovery Connection website, saw the training, decided to take the training to become a peer recovery specialist. And I thought, okay, did that. And the woman who trained me, her name is Chris Kelly. She's going to get accolades throughout this entire lifetime that I'm going to live. Really twisted my brain, and the training twisted my brain. There were some other incredible trainers that took place there. Dieter Hawkins is another one. and thinking about who am I, and who I am as a woman who struggled with alcoholism, wanting to get sober, but now I'm living a new life. And so that was, like you said, I was about 15 years in recovery. And it was interesting. There was this huge twist that took place where I sort of began to pull away from the traditional model that we have in the state of Minnesota, the land of 10,000 treatment centers. Mm-hmm. And note to self or note to community, I never went to treatment. Never once. Because it was Johnny Law that got on my back.
You found your way there. That's what matters.
I know. So, finding my recovery took place kind of in 2016, but it was when I got my second DWI that I had to stop drinking, because that's when I was really having the repercussions. I was having the consequences of my addiction. And so in 2000 and what was it? I have to do the math. 2021-ish is when I stopped drinking, because I had gotten 2001.
Oh,
see,
my.
I know. It's been a while. Sorry, folks. That's a problem. Math is not my friend. Years, not my friend. I've got a relative. She can pull stuff out of her hat from like 2000 or 1988 and 1981. And I'm like, what?
I just want to make sure you're getting the credit you deserve for those years.
It's one of those things where I'm like, I cannot do years. So a long time ago, I had a DWI. How's that? Mm-hmm. So I had that, and there's going to be a lot of people who are in recovery or in their sobriety that I had to go to court. No, let me back the bus up. That night, I was out with a friend, and we were celebrating her birthday. It was in December. I think it was December 7th, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, December 7th specifically. December 7th, celebrating her birthday.
There's a date you can remember.
That's a date.
Sorry.
Absolutely. That's a date I can remember. That was great. Thank you. There are some dates that you do remember. And so I was a classic blackout drunk. So I would go out, drink a whole lot, blackout. And so what happened was, went out for birthday, went to dinner, had a couple bottles of wine, went to one bar, drank, went to another bar, lights went out. Little pokes of memory come in, went and got in my car. Yes, everybody, I drove drunk. It's not an unknown thing. It just happens. Because 20-some years ago, it was a bad thing. Now a lot of people don't do it. Bless them for not doing it. But it was a common practice for me. So try not to cast any shame on me. I don't do it anymore. But excuse me for that big snort. So I got in my car, drove out of a parking ramp, and there happened to be a trooper sitting right there. I wasn't driving so well at that moment in time, so I drove in an alley, and guess what? They followed me. Whoa, jeez. So they came. Oh, I can't tap. Tapping on the window. And, excuse me, miss, do you have anything you want to talk to me about? See, I remember some things. It's kind of amazing. Right. Have you had anything to drink? Oh, not much, officer. So, anyway, got arrested, and there's a classic part of this that comes out in my story, which is I got arrested, don't remember much of that, don't remember getting booked, don't remember any of that. What I remember is going into a little booth, having to change my clothes. I don't remember even changing, but I remember that moment in time, and then having a woman tap my hand hours later. And what happened was she was saying, Candace, it's okay. Candace is my given name, just so y'all know. Candace, it's okay. Candace, it's okay. And I kind of come to, and kind of frightening lady, big glasses, staring at my little wristband because it's kind of like you're in the hospital. I had been crying in my sleep, and I was in a blackout. And so I came up out of that, and I was like, oh, Effenheimer, what has happened? And that's when my life had to change. Mm-hmm. Because that was the second time I got arrested. And that is not a place that I ever want to be in again. And so I went to court. lots of bills. When they say it costs about $25,000 for a DWI, they ain't lying.
Incredible.
Yeah, they took my car, took my car forever. Like, bye-bye, car gone. And so that was a pretty big hit. So anyway, there were the consequences of all that. And so that led me to going to AA. And I am not necessarily a proponent I am a proponent of AA because it did save my life. I now don't attend because I've grown into my recovery versus my sobriety.
Mm-hmm. And I can totally relate to utilizing AA in your early recovery and then kind of outgrowing it. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate it, and I know that it works very well for many humans. But like you, I've learned more. I've learned about all pathways. I've learned that people find recovery in different ways, right? You didn't expect to find recovery. You were almost forced to because Johnny Law said, go to these meetings. Mm-hmm. And they did something well for you. Mm-hmm. And so that's great. But that doesn't work for everybody. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad that it worked for you.
Yeah, I'm glad it worked for me for a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
So the story moves on kind of classically. I went to meetings, but here's what was really interesting in that early time in my recovery. I'd walk into the meeting. I'd sit in a chair that looked directly at the door. I'd walk in 1 minute before it started, 6:15. Mm-hmm. And then at 7:15 and a half, I'd dart out the door.
You were watching the clock the whole time.
Oh, my gosh. Didn't say a word. Didn't say a word.
How long? Like for how many months or weeks or?
It took me almost 6-8 months before I said anything. And I'll never forget a wonderful woman by the name of Linda. As I was shooting out the door, she grabbed my arm, literally grabbed my arm to hold me into the space. And she's like, hi, I'm Linda. How are you? Can you just hang on just a second there, Caddy? I'm like, sure. Now what? And she's like, you want to go to coffee? I'm like, huh? Okay, sure. Now what do I do? Okay, we go to coffee. Oh, okay. Because I was terrified. Mm-hmm. I was terrified. What were you going to say?
Oh, well, fellowshipping is one of those things that that you get forced into doing, and it's really a good thing, or certainly can be. Yeah.
So taking off of that, so I had my first real conversation with someone because I really didn't talk in the meeting. And then it evolved, and there was a really great people. This was called, I can't remember what they used to call this A meeting. It was at Temple Israel in South Minneapolis, and we had a real tight group. And one day somebody said something, and I started to cry because I cracked open. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, I didn't stop crying for a long time.
Good for you.
And it really was good for me because those walls that I had built up were so thick and so high and so scary for me to actually begin to feel. So I started to talk and to cry.
Yeah, that's, and thank goodness you did. I think as we continue to talk about recovery, we see in all of the models that opening up and sharing is like the beginning of the healing process. Mm-hmm. And it can be so frightening. I mean, 8-9 months to open up. You're just listening and soaking it in, and you don't want to be judged. You don't know who's safe. You don't know anything about anything. Life is brand new. You haven't done sober living before.
What's that?
Yeah, so good for you.
Yeah, and it's interesting you just said, and that is, it's such a new feeling. Mm-hmm. It's such an incredibly new feeling to live in that space where you're not alone. Other people share stories that sound awfully familiar because we live in that space of like, it's only me. I'm the only one who's been through this. I'm the only one who's done this. I'm the. And we're so self-centered because we're so self-centered around that fear of exposing ourselves. So I just kept going to AA once a week. I got more recovery. I got more sober. I think, we're going to pick up on this next program about talking about that difference between sobriety and recovery. So I stayed sober. I had to, because if I didn't, then Johnny Law would come knocking on my door again and say, get your butt into jail, Caddy, because you can't drink. Mm-hmm. And that threat of having to go and, sorry, I'm going to be a little bit descriptive here, pee in a cup. Many people in recovery know what that means because they're going to test you and see if you've, used any chemicals. So that was the other looming thing, and then looming of going to jail. And I probably about 2-3 years into my recovery realized it's like this really big moment that I'm more moral than my previous actions. I was raised, I'm using air quotes now, right. But I didn't know what right was for a long time because the pain overtook. Then the alcohol had to layer on top of that to squash that pain. But when I finally realized that I'm beyond this, that's when sobriety and something else came in. And I couldn't identify it then, and I can certainly identify it now.
Right.
And it was I just remember that moment. And it was amazing because I just realized I think I'm free of this. I really had never had a reoccurrence of using substances of any kind. Didn't really like anything but booze. Booze was my friend. And what I'm excited about as we continue these conversations is that I want other people to hear that they can find their sobriety, they can find their recovery, they can find their pathway to their recovery. I'd like you to talk a little bit about your experience with harm reduction at Minnesota Recovery Connection, because I think right out of the gate, I'd really like people to hear what that means, because it's a controversial term and thing in our community.
It is, and it's something that I learned also from your course. I had used harm reduction in my many years of trying to find recovery. So the first thing I like to say about harm reduction, my dear, is that it is about removing everything that you think you know about a human and just looking at the human and starting from scratch.
Beautiful.
Looking at them with compassion and love, right? So let's not think about this human and the substance first. The substance is important because harm reduction is, relieving them of the substance or finding different ways or safer ways to use drugs or using drugs, a different drug that's legal rather than illegal, drug testing. I mean, there's harm reduction just goes on and on and on. And the funny thing is that every human uses harm reduction every single day in their lives in some way, shape, or form. It's as simple as putting on your seatbelt when you get into your car. It's anything that is going to mitigate harm in any practice. So
me taking my high blood pressure medication.
Absolutely. 100%. Me putting in my contacts so I ain't driving around all blind. I mean, these
Great
are serious
example.
things.
Yeah.
But folks get really kind of panties in a bunch when we talk about it with substance use disorder. And I think it's time, especially here in Minnesota, with the changes that are happening, have happened, are going to be happening, that we really give people good, solid information and kind of block any misinformation and misconceptions that people have about people who use drugs. Because drug users are just humans that are struggling with something. I'll talk about my story next week or whenever we get to it, but for me, it was like a realization that I didn't have a problem with alcohol, right? Of course, it had, by this point, I was dependent on it in my my active drinking career. But really, I had a problem with my brain, right? With all the stuff that had been downloaded into it. And so we just need to look at humans. That's all it is.
Tell me, just give an example to those who are listening when we talk about harm reduction. You said that you used it in your recovery journey. So how did you use, give an example of how you used harm reduction, just so people get an understanding of what that might mean?
Sure. So first of all, alcohol was my main source of intoxication. And first I had just tried on my own, like to, quit drinking liquor, and I would just drink beer. Or now I'm just drinking wine because it's better on my tummy because I ended up having some medical issues. Or I stopped drinking at the bars because that was sucking away my money, and I was a drinker and driver. I didn't, put much thought into that. And so I was being safer by not driving. So I was drinking at home. So that's harm reduction, not getting behind the wheel at all, getting an Uber. And then later on, I had used my physician who prescribed me Antabuse, which basically blocks you from becoming intoxicated and makes you feel like you have an incredible hangover. And folks, it stays in your system longer than 24 hours, so I wouldn't recommend drinking on it ever. Or it's good. It works, is what I'm saying.
It works.
But if you don't want it to work, you can also just stop using it. And, like I said, for me, it was I really needed to get to the bottom of it and get to the stuff that was downloaded into my brain. And so those things didn't work for me, that harm reduction, and I didn't realize what I was doing, that I was practicing harm reduction. But it makes sense now that I know all the things that I know, I just want to shout it from the mountaintops, That's why we're here.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, thank you, because I think it's important that people understand that harm reduction isn't just about substance use disorder. Also, the term that's out there is substance abuse. And we change the language. In this conversation, you're going to hear all kinds of terminology that sort of sounds familiar, but it's not part of what we would call the greater conversation. We've taken substance abuse disorder to substance use disorder. And so when you talk about harm reduction, it just lifts my heart. You can see my face right now, because people don't realize that we live each day, like you said, reducing the harm. You think about diabetes, people taking their medications, people taking their heart medications, people having their EpiPen with them. Those are all harm reduction methods. This can all be applied to substance use disorder. And that's a beautiful thing, but there's controversy, even in our own community.
Yeah. The community within our community.
Oh, it's just
there
crazy.
Surely can be, because when we start talking about opioids, then that's a whole different beast other people don't understand, right? And so how do we support somebody who's using opioids and let them do recovery the way that they need to do it, whether that means they still use or use safer or, whatever it looks like for them. I'm just going to show them the love that they need, because I guarantee they need it.
Well, we need to be heard, right, Erin? We need to be heard. I think you've taken it from my class. I was just on a conversation with some men that we trained in prison in Moose Lake. Yes, we've trained prison inmates, and it's fabulous. But we were having a conversation yesterday, and they were talking about how they were having a hard time listening to their fellow human in that community. And I was like, sometimes we just have to listen. And then one of the other gentlemen in the room was talking. He goes, yeah, sometimes we just need to listen to what people have to say, because I know, and I'd love you to tell me, nobody asked me what was going on. They just saw my reaction to what was going on. But nobody said, Caddy, what's going on with you? Why are you drinking? What's this all about? What about you, Erin?
Yeah. I specifically remember the first time somebody asked me something differently, but mostly it was, what's wrong with you? Just quit drinking. Why can't you do this? And so I was being shamed for not even being able to do that. Specifically remember in my 5th treatment facility, a woman asking me to go through my history of my usage. Well, that's what I thought she was asking, because in other treatment facilities they ask that. And when I wrote down 12 years old drunk, she said, nope, erase that, Erin. And I said, no, that's the first time I got drunk. She said, no, start at the beginning. When were you born? And that's when everything changed for me. Wow. Humans were struggling, and I didn't know anything about anything. I didn't know how to cope. I didn't know. All I knew was alcohol made me feel less, and that's what I needed to feel, because what I had been feeling was painful.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, so what happened to you? Why?
Yeah, and that's what we talk about. There's another thing that we talk about, and that is trauma-informed care.
Absolutely.
Not what's wrong with somebody, but Erin.
What happened to you?
That's where the magic is. Yeah. What happened to someone? We can point at what's wrong with people all day long. Your hair's too long, your pants are too short, you know, you drive like a fool, all these things.
All sorts of things.
But what happened? Why are you doing that?
Yeah, because why would a 12-year-old girl decide to get drunk? There had to have been something there. You know, and that's so many people's story. Why did you start so young? What was happening in your life that made you believe that that's how you cope with life, or that's how you do life, that's how you live?
So we're going to go into our last break of our show, and we'll see you. This is Redefining Recovery, a recovery revolution. Thank you.
And then she heads for the clinic and she gets some static walking through the door. They call her a killer and they call her a sinner and they call her the side of bad and the downside of up and everything between. I licked the silver spoon, drank from the golden cup and smoked.
Welcome back to Redefining Recovery, a recovery revolution. I'm Erin here with Caddy Frank from Minnesota Recovery Connection. We are so excited to be here. Please check us out at minnesotarecovery.org. If you don't know about Minnesota Recovery Connection, we are the first recovery community organization in Minnesota. We're located in St. Paul, and we would love to have you come and check out our services, our peer-to-peer services, and just here having some great conversations about recovery, what it looks like, what it actually is. And just get some important information out to our listeners. So before we went to break, we were talking about what happened to you. Instead of looking at folks and their substance, looking at folks and what might be going on internally. Why the substance, right?
Exactly.
And I had revealed that the first time that I recall becoming intoxicated, I was 12 years old. And that's pretty young. I know folks that have had their first times were younger than mine with their intoxication. I'm curious, Caddy, when did you first use substance?
I have a vivid memory, and this will go back in the time machine for some of our listeners, and that is I really didn't have anything to drink until I was like 16 years old. And there's a whole lot more of that story about how I grew up and why I didn't drink before then, but we'll save that for another time. But I remember I was working at Dayton's, and some of you know that name, Dayton's, and we were going to a house party because I worked in the basement budget store at Dayton's. So we're just going to throw a little history in here. Budget bras and girdles, that's where I worked. And the manager was having a party, and I was 16 years old, and I drank, I can never remember, what is orange juice and vodka? Screwdrivers. See, it's been a while. So I had many screwdrivers, not knowing what they would really do for me. And paint the picture of a 16-year-old having many screwdrivers and going to the bathroom with her best girlfriend and dropping her snake metal belt into the toilet first and foremost because she couldn't figure out methods of going to the bathroom. And then proceeding to crawl into somebody's car, don't even remember who it was, and vomiting outside the door profusely many times on her journey home. And then that was my first blackout because I remember that action, but I don't remember getting from the car door to my home. But I woke up the next morning and my mom, I walked downstairs, head throbbing, sat on a little ottoman, and she was looking at me and she's like, "So, how do you feel?" And I remember going, "This is awful." She's like, "Mm-hmm." She didn't really judge me, but she was just looking at me. And
I find this to be really interesting.
Tell me.
No, you go on. No.
Okay.
Because
what were you gonna say?
You had this experience and it was awful.
Uh-huh.
And you went back for more.
Hello.
A lot more.
Party down.
Something's wrong with us.
Oh, yeah.
Something must have been downloaded poorly in our brains to make us think that going back for more would be better.
Better. I know. Sounds absolutely ludicrous, doesn't it? Absolutely ludicrous. And I'm like, when can I do that again?
Awful experience.
Yeah. Roll. Then, you know what I did? Then, like not 2 years later, I probably drank in between there, but didn't have much opportunity to drink just because of life circumstances. But I went to a Rush concert at the Met Center. Yes, where IKEA sits today. Just love that. Drank like an absolute fish. Again, I'm a blackout drunk. That's what I did. But then this throwing up thing, I did a projectile vomit at the concert.
Oh, my.
But here's the thing, guys. I got escorted out because that wasn't an acceptable action inside the Met Center at a Rush concert. But it was winter, and somebody just threw me into their car, and I was in the back seat. I could have, had it been colder, if it was whatever the circumstances were, I could have easily died. And I know that's the way a lot of people are just sort of treated when they have too much. It's like, you're an F up, we're just going to throw you into the car, we're going to throw you into the bushes, we're going to do that. And, yep, and I did it again, and I did it again, and I did it again. Those are like two vivid stories of that early drinking where why was drinking so much such a thing?
It was so important to you.
Oh, my gosh.
I only knew to drink to get drunk.
Yeah.
I never understood how somebody could have a glass of wine
Or half a glass of wine.
What?
the?
You open the bottle, Caddy.
Woo-hoo!
Finish her off.
Or two.
Absolutely.
I had a party
That's
once.
why you buy the big bottles.
I know. I had a party once. Somebody brought me a case of Zima. I drank the entire case. It was 12 bottles.
It's
Zima.
insane, right?
There's no off switch.
There's no off switch. And people just, the thing that I kept being told was just quit drinking. I'm like, I'm trying, y'all. Trust me.
I don't like this hangover business.
Yeah, I'm not trying to drink. It's finding me. And actually, I can't stop thinking about it.
Oh, so amazing what you just said. Because it consumes you. I remember being at work several times. Who can I go to happy hour with? Who can I go to happy hour with? Who can I go to happy hour with?
Yeah, when's my
Who
next drink?
still likes me?
Oh.
Because I had
Who
burned
haven't
a
I?
whole, who haven't I? Who can I buy drinks for? I mean,
Who can buy me drinks?
oh, hello. But that Visa card was very, very active back in the day. So, here we are. We've got a couple minutes left in the show. We've barely tipped into really the stories of our lives.
Yeah.
And what we're doing right now, folks, is we're giving you a snapshot of what my life has been like, what Erin's life has been like, and all the steps in between. I mean, we've talked about so many different things. And what we want to do is, I don't want to necessarily use the word normalize, but if you have felt anything listening to this, if you felt that ping of like, oh, man, that was me, or that was me too. Or, man, I haven't had a chemical in X amount of time. I don't care if it's minutes, days, months, or years. If you hear something that resonates with you, keep coming back to this conversation. We will invite you to, as time wears on, to share some of your stories. But let this be a place where you can just listen to maybe some good banter, hear yourself, and maybe just give yourself a break. Because substance use is a disease. A lot of people think it's a moral failing. It's all those things that other people have told us, like you just said, just stop drinking. Well, I can't,
Right.
because I depend on it, because it's my happy place. So as you're going and moving through your day, have some compassion for the person who might be struggling. Keep that judgment maybe in the back. Ask them how they're doing. Listen to them. Don't tell them what to do, because we know what we should do, but we can't.
Ask them what's right with them today.
Ain't that a beautiful thing? So, Erin, what are we going to talk about next week?
So many things. Probably a little bit more about my story. I have a feeling we'll end up talking about big picture, like what that means, what that looks like, looking at the whole human. or your, I don't know, maybe we'll talk about who I am, who you are, who I am,
Who's
who we
that
are.
beautiful woman across the mic from me?
Yeah, I mean, like who all of us are.
Yes.
Individually. Yeah. I want, if folks out there too, if you have questions, comments, this is brand new to us. So please send us messages or questions to info@minnesotarecovery.org. That's all spelled out. info@minnesotarecovery.org. We want to hear from you too. This is important that we hear from the folks that we're talking to, that we're trying to reach. Let us know what you want to know about. We've got, the conversations are endless, absolutely endless. Every time we talk about like a little part of our story, I'm like, there's a topic, there's a topic, there's a topic. We've got so much to talk about, and thankfully we have time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Erin Fitzgerald, thank you.
Thank you, Miss Caddy Frank.
We'll hear you, see you, listen to you, talk to you in the future. Thank you for listening to Redefining Recovery, a recovery revolution. Join us next week on the show.